No, I think it's...
Prabhu, mother oil. Dude, your dad's who named oil? That's your dad's one, right?
Yeah.
You look great. That's so cool, bro. I named my dad. Well, I named it, but I named it my favorite child. So like, for both my mom and my dad, on every single texting device platform. They might have actually changed it now. Remember?
Which one is it? 2 or 1? 2. Yeah, it's connected. Oh, it's connected.
It's like 300 characters. But should we just do the
It worked.
last?
It worked in the beginning.
Prabhu, can I get your phone like you just did like the whole time? Like the Apple, like the airplane, should we just do that? This guy's big. I know who you're thinking of right now. Hari Om Sa Prabhu. Just, what do you do when you're waiting? This is really Haribol. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for very kindly being here. I understand it's a long day for all those who attended some programs in the morning also. But I have the program. Hari Om Prabhu. The purpose of the temple is to get together and chant and hear about the Supreme Lord. And I get nothing better than using the weekend, using an Independence Day to actually hear about Krishna, who is all independent, Swaraj, to become independent from this world. The purpose of hearing Harikatha is so that we become independent, by becoming dependent on the Supreme Lord, by taking His shelter, by taking His Sharanagati. Anyway, so let's begin. Even before we get started, let us chant the Mangalacharya prayers. Seek auspiciousness from our spiritual superiors of Srila Prabhupada, and then get started with our today's discussion. If you have these prayers memorized, can you chant along? Om Ajnana-Jnanasya Jnana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadadayam Dadati Swarpadantikam Vandeham So we have been along there with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Madhya Leela of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita as authored by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And in our discussions up until now, we have seen as to how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right from his appearance in this world, has gone around extolling the glories of Sri Krishna now, and also inspiring the heart of so many others who may or may not be very much interested in Krishna consciousness. And in our previous class, in our previous session, we saw how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually instructs many of his devotees, whether it is Nityananda Prabhu, whether it is Shivananda Singh, whether it is so many others. Does anyone know more about what we discussed last time?
Gundicha, so Jagannath cart was coming to Gundicha, and then there was 8 days.
No, it was 5th day, Hira Panchami,
Yeah, okay.
and 9th day we returned back. So Lakshmi ji was angry that he is not coming
Right,
back.
so we spoke about Hira Panchami, the day when Lakshmi Devi, she comes along with her servants to arrest the servants of Jagannath, because Jagannath had promised I will come next day, but Jagannath never came. And you see, old habits die hard. Krishna had also promised, I will come back. He never came back. The form of the Lord changes, Krishna comes as Jagannath, but habit doesn't change. Habit is still same. So he doesn't really follow that, and then after 9 days he comes back. And we see in the Mahabharata also Krishna says, I will not pick up any weapon. But to kill Bhishma there, he still picks up a weapon. So Krishna is a little interesting personality. And that is why most often in India we find people do not have any doubts about the supremacy of Sri Ramachandra Bhagavan. But Krishna is a very interesting personality. Many people have doubts about how can he be Bhagavan. Ramachandra is a very obedient son. The father says go to forest, he goes to forest. Very easy to accept as Bhagavan. But Krishna is a very interesting character. He changes one avatar from Ram to Krishna, and all his habits change. All that he never did in Sri Ram's pastimes, everything he does in Krishna's pastime. Srila Prabhu Thakur says that Krishna is a very interesting personality. Why? Srila Thakur says, because my dear Krishna, in the land of Vrindavan and in so many other places, the yogis are meditating for the years and years and years together. Why? So that they can see you in their heart. The yogis, my dear Krishna, are meditating. Why? So that they can see you. Krishna, they can see you in the heart. But you realistically don't reveal yourself so easily. Right? They do tapasya. We also are chanting for so many years, decades or whatever. It's interesting when we join the movement, we are told chant and be happy. But once you start chanting, you understand between chant and happy, there is a big and. That and is very big. That you are not told. When you come to device, chant and be happy. You chant, you will be happy. Yes, chanting makes you happy. But to come to the realization that chanting alone can make you happy, it takes many, many years. Right? So it's chant and it's a very big and. But we see that what were we speaking? I just
Jagannath.
Thank you. Yes. So Srila Prabhupada says, my dear Lord, when the yogis are meditating, they are doing tapasya for so many years and you really don't reveal your thoughts. But what is so fascinating? In the land of Vrindavan, my dear Krishna, one cow does moo. And my dear Krishna, you leave everything to the side to go to attend to that cow. Yogis are doing tapasya, there you don't come. One cow in Vrindavan does moo, you forget everything and you go to the cow. What happened? Can I give you something? You milk the cow, you can speak to the cow may not even say anything. You hold the tail, you bathe the cow. My dear Krishna, you may or may not know how to bathe, but you bathe the cow. But the yogis, they are doing tapasya, they are chanting mantra, tantra, this, that, closing eyes, standing on one leg. There you don't reveal. In Vrindavan, for one cow's moo, Krishna leaves everything. Bilwa Mangalan Thakur says, hey Prabhu, aap dhanya hai. For one cow, you are ready to leave everything. But what about you and I? And that's why in Vrindavan, we say always, whichever road you are walking, you will find one cow. Cows are always moving. And often that so happens that these cows and these calves in Vrindavan, they will be standing in the middle of the road. And if you are going in a car, you honk, the cow is not going to move. You honk, the cow will look at you and the cows don't move. Because Vrindavan is a land, right? It's a land which is very, very transcendental. Our logic doesn't work in Vrindavan. Logic works everywhere. But Braj mein, it is love that supersedes everything. So yes, we discussed those things. What else? What else did we discuss last time?
Discuss about two brothers, Gunraj Khan and Satyaraj.
Gunaraj Khan and Satyaraj Khan. Okay, that reminds me of one verse that is
Nanda Krishna Mora Prana.
Nanda Krishna Mora Prana. Yes. Nanda Krishna
Mora
Prana.
What does that mean? Anyone from the Prabhujis? Nanda Krishna Mora Prana.
नंद महाराज जी के सन कृष्ण जी मेरे प्राण।
Very good. Simple. Nanda Krishna, Nanda Maharaj ke son and Prananath, my beloved. What happened?
Sunchi Mataji is excited.
अच्छा उधर से आंसर आया था? अच्छा अच्छा
प्रभु जी ने आंसर दिया तो
सुपीरियरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स।
अच्छा Nanda Krishna Mora Prananath. And what does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say to that?
whoever says it
No, he says
or anywhere even a dog
he goes
dog in the village
throughout the hierarchy.
Very good. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says Gunaraj Khan has written Nanda Krishna Mora Prananath in a book called as Sri Krishna Vijay. Mahaprabhu says Gunaraj Khan is very dear to my heart. What to speak of Gunaraj Khan? All the Kulina Gram Vasis are also dear to my heart because they are connected to Gunaraj Khan, who has written a book called as Sri Krishna Vijay, and in that book the sentence is Nanda Krishna Mora Prananath. Mahaprabhu doesn't stop, but Mahaprabhu says
Even a dog.
what to speak of Gunaraj Khan? What to speak of Kulina Vasis? Even the dog of Kulina Gram is very dear to my heart because the dog is connected to the Kulina Gram Vasis, who are connected to Gunaraj Khan, who has written a book called Sri Krishna Vijay, and in that book he has written
Nanda
Krishna Mora Prananath. So Mahaprabhu says anyone who chants this can be even a dog. Mahaprabhu says they are very dear to my heart. So it is, even if we don't remember any verse, doesn't mean we don't remember anything. But let's say even if we don't remember any verse, and oftentimes it happens, right? When we do Bhakti Shastri, during Bhakti Shastri we will remember all the verses. How many have done Bhakti Shastri? Or are doing it? Doing it. And we have verses to memorize in Bhakti Shastri. Thoda kuch to hoga. And you will see it the moment, let's say, your nectar of instruction is done and you go to Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita verses you will start memorizing, nectar of instruction will become Gaur Premanand. You will forget. From Bhagavad Gita you go to nectar of devotion, then nectar of instruction and Bhagavad Gita will become Gaur Premanand. And finally come to Ishopanishad, all three come. By the time it's 2, 3, 4 months after you finish Bhakti Shastri, only certificate will be there. Verses will have evaporated. And you can see, once you do it, you will know what I'm talking about. But even if you forget all verses, let's say, every verse, including Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Saranam, if you forget everything, sure we remember this one verse. Not even one verse, it's one line. Actually, Buddha had written 2 lines. This is one line of that one verse, which is Nandanandana Krishna. Mahaprabhu says, anyone who says this will become dear to my heart, including the dog of Govinda. Very good. What else? Yes.
We talked about Raghava Pandit and how he was an expert cook and like the whole coconut story.
We spoke about Raghava Pandit, expert cook, the coconut pastime. What was the coconut pastime?
Like he would bring coconuts from so far away, and even if like one time it touched like the ceiling, and he said no, this is not okay because when the foot dust like goes up, it touches the coconut.
Right. Raghava Pandit would walk 20 miles to get coconuts. So 20 miles is approximately from here to our BCC. So walking from here to BCC only to get coconuts for the Supreme Court. That is how much he loved Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that is how much he had attention to detail. Dena hai to acha dena. Yes, what else?
We talked about different type of Vaishnavas.
Different types of Vaishnavas, very good.
3 definitions.
3 definitions, okay. Who remembers? Whatever we remember.
First one was whosoever says the chant's name of Bhagwanji one time.
हाँ जी.
Second, third.
One.
मुझे दोनों भी याद एक ये याद है कि हमेशा
एक ही this in our section there was only one. I went back and said second and third also. But Mahaprabhu says
Second one is one who chant continuously.
ठीक है.
And third one is one when we see them, our tongue starts to
हाँ,
sing.
जिनको देखने मात्र से आपके जीवा में से भगवान नाम निकलने लगती है. ऐसा वैष्णव तो So 3 kinds of Vaishnavas, and in 3 successive years actually, Mahaprabhu gives different definitions of who is a Vaishnava. Yes, what else?
We also learned that Mahaprabhu loves bananas, Radharani loves plums, and Krishna likes chiku.
See, Prasada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loves bananas, Krishna loves chiku, and Radharani loves
Plums.
and Madhuri also said Radharani likes army. What else?
So Satyaraj Khan, I think Mahaprabhu gave instruction to Satyaraj Khan to serve the Vaishnavas and chant the holy name without stop, with nose.
Correct. Very good. Yes. Then Mahaprabhu also gave an instruction to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Vidya Vachaspati. Both were from G. We had a big discussion last time.
Gita and Ganga.
Gita and किसको Ganga? गीता किसी को नहीं था. गीता बोल सकता. गंगा किसको था?
सब पहले both बोल रहे थे.
Vidya Vachaspati was asked to worship Ganga, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was asked to worship Jagannath. So one was wood, one was water. Anything else that we discussed?
Mukunda's tale about the peacock feather.
Mukunda and peacock feather. How Mukunda saw the peacock feather and became unconscious. And when the king asked him, he said, "Yes, I am a pure devotee." Correct?
No, he said
He said,
Epilepsy.
Epilepsy. Yes. And then he also mentioned how when devotees are ecstatic, normally devotees don't reveal it. They will hide it, they will conceal it because आपने यार भजन कथा ना कहीं को यत्र कथा. The more you disclose your bhajan to everyone, you lose the strength to hold on to your breath. If you go on telling everyone I'm doing 64 rounds, very soon you will not be able to do it. Why? Because Narottam Das Thakur said it. I am not saying it. Bhajan should always be kept very personal and should be revealed only to those who are mentors, Diksha Siksha Gurus, not to the whole congregation. Anything else that we discussed? आज दोनों back and forth जाए.
Competition है हुआ.
Competition अच्छा.
Representing Prabhuji's.
Okay.
I don't remember the context, but one thing that touched was you mentioned that bhakti is like camphor. So I forgot the context. I think it was more about the more we make it more deep. I think it basically helps you grow further.
The more bhakti we keep to ourselves in the form of sadhana, the more one can grow and advance. But the more हम ढिंढोरा पीटेंगे कि अरे मैं इतना कर रहा हूँ, मैं इतना कर रहा हूँ, eventually the person will lose the strength to hold on to it. So the point was ढिंढोरा नहीं पीटना है, भजन करना है, भक्ति में आगे जाना है, and share it with those who are guiding you and mentoring you, but not to everyone. Anything else or continue?
I think you said like Krishna, Duryodhana has Krishna and Arjuna has Krishna, but there is a difference, like prema is there for.
Do we want Krishna? Do we want Krishna prema?
Krishna.
We want Krishna, right?
No.
No, Krishna Prema.
Krishna Prema.
Means Krishna
What?
How many for Krishna?
Dono चाहिए.
All I wanted to be.
Same side, only dono चाहिए.
No, Krishna Prema.
We said Krishna prema, why? Because Duryodhana also got Krishna, but he was envious. Shakuni Mama also got Krishna, but was envious. But we want to be like Arjuna or like Brajavasis, where they had prema, love for Krishna. So between Krishna and Krishna prema, we want Krishna prema, love unto Krishna. We want to love. Otherwise, what's the use if Krishna comes and if we are envious of Krishna? क्या बात? भगवान से प्रेम करना. We have to love Krishna. Anything else? बच्चा पार्टी do we remove anything? ठीक है.
Two divine forms of Kali we discussed.
Two divine forms of Kali.
Like Jagannath, wood and water, right?
Correct. Sarabhama Bhattacharya Vidyavadishpati, Jagannath and Ganga. ठीक है. Let's continue. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while being on his journey, Sarabhama Bhattacharya invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home for Prasad, as we invite different devotees to pray. He invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and Sarabhama Bhattacharya along with his wife, they started feeding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Sarabhama Bhattacharya put a lot of rice, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I can't eat so much. Sarabhama Bhattacharya said, Pata, as Jagannath, how much you eat, I very well know. Don't try this tactic with me. Don't tell me you cannot eat so much. As Jagannath, how much you eat, I very well know. Chupchap khalo. Because as Jagannath, it is Jagannath's promise that throughout the day Jagannath is fed. To the extent you go to Puri, they feed Jagannath, and by the time Jagannath is finished and washed his hands, हाथ सूखने से पहले एक और plate आ जाएगा. That's Jagannath Puri. So there is no rest for Jagannath. In Puri, it is his blessing that he is constantly eating. And as we would have heard in Jagannath Puri, it's very fascinating that when the pots are kept on the stove, let's say pots are stacked one on top of the other. According to science, what should happen? The pot that's there on the bottom should be cooked first, and the pot that's there on the top should be cooked much later, right? Which is logical. In Jagannath Puri, it doesn't work. Why? Because I said logic doesn't work in Dham. In Jagannath Puri, and it's very, very popular, in Jagannath Puri, when pots are stacked, the pot on the top gets cooked first, and the pot that is there next to the fire gets cooked last. How it happens, no one knows. That's Jagannath Puri. Another point about Jagannath Puri, you see the temple? The temple has the flag, the chakra and the flag. The flag in Jagannath Puri, so normally when the wind blows, the flag flutters according to the direction of the wind. In Jagannath Puri, it will flutter in the opposite direction. You go to Jagannath Puri, it's well documented. You go to Google, you will see it. How it happens, we don't know. It flutters always in the opposite direction. And the cooking also, the pot that is there on the top gets cooked first, the pot that is there on the bottom gets cooked last. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was invited by Sarabhama Bhattacharya for Prasad, and Sarabhama Bhattacharya put a lot of rice. But at the same time, Sarabhama Bhattacharya was standing at the door because he didn't want his son-in-law to enter. His son-in-law was a personality by the name Amogha. What is the name? Amogha. Amogha was someone who was very fault-finding nature. He would fault-find very easily. Fault-finding would come very naturally. जैसा मतलब मानो मुख से गंगा बह रहा है, so for him fault-finding was very easy. He would see every person and find some fault. And in this world also you will see such people. Right? Even if they make devotees, they will find some faults. You have this category in this world also. So he was standing in the door to prevent Amogha from entering. Sarabhama Bhattacharya was standing. But eventually, as he started serving, his attention diverted and Amogha entered. And when Amogha entered, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his Mahaprabhu's plate was a big mountain of rice. And Amoga saw and said, "Oh, chi chi chi, sannyasi and eating so much. Good. You're eating you're eating so much that 10 to 12 people can eat so much. 10-12 जन को जो खाना है वो आप अकेले खा रहे हो और आप सन्यासी हैं, आप अपने आप को विरक्त बोलते हैं। Not good. Sannyasi should not eat so much. Mahaprabhu, when he heard it, Mahaprabhu started smiling. Because Mahaprabhu knew इसका कुछ नहीं हो सकता, इनको बोल के फायदा नहीं। You have some categories of people who are हम नहीं सुधरेंगे category. How much ever you tell them, they will not be good. Right? Amoga was like that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't waste any time to telling him, he just smiled. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became very angry. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya took a stick in his hand. And like Mother Yashoda started running behind Krishna, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya took a stick and started running behind his own son-in-law. दामाद के पीछे भागने लगे, एक कैसा बेशरम दामाद मिला है। What kind of son-in-law? He criticizes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Bhagavan. I don't want such a son-in-law. He just took a stick and started running. And Amoga was running. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was running. Some of Amoga slipped. He went away from the vision of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, "My dear Lord, please forgive me that I have such a envious son-in-law." Mahaprabhu said, "Yes, forgive. I didn't even take it into consideration. हम तो ध्यान भी नहीं छोड़ो. Just forget it." But when we criticize devotees, and in this case criticizing Bhagavan, it will not just go unnoticed. Right? When devotees are criticized, the Supreme Lord takes it very, very seriously. What to speak of criticizing Bhagavan? In the Mahabharata also we see Shishupal also in case of Krishna. And till the time he was criticizing the Supreme Lord, Krishna is kept quiet because he had the benediction of the Supreme Lord that his first 100 offenses would not be taken into consideration. But eventually we see the Supreme Lord also releases Sudarshan Chakra and kills Shishupal. So here, Amoga, because he criticized Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in a few days he was diagnosed with what is called as cholera. You have heard cholera? So Prabhupada, in the purport he writes, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the word that is used is in Bengali. And Prabhupada says this corresponds to the modern day cholera. So he was diagnosed with cholera. And when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya got him, he said, "Very good. Good, let him die." Because he's criticizing the Supreme Lord. Jivo va marova. Whether he lives, whether he dies, it's immaterial to the world. Let him just die. The father-in-law wanted the son-in-law to die because he criticized. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart is a heart of gold. As when he comes as Krishna, he punishes. When he comes as Ram, he punishes. But as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his heart cannot punish him. What to speak of Amoga? Mahaprabhu even excused Jagai and Madhai. Where is Amoga in the picture? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Amoga. And Amoga realized that it is his nature, his envious nature that has caused him this pitiful state. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked at him and said, "Where did you get this nature from? How did you become so critical in your speech? The tongue is meant to glorify the devotees. The tongue is meant to speak about Krishna. The tongue is meant to chant about Krishna. Bolo Krishna, bhajo Krishna, bolo Krishna Siksha." The tongue is meant to chant. The tongue is meant to glorify the Vaishnavas. The tongue is not meant to criticize the devotees. That same Supreme Lord who can give the tongue to glorify the devotees, if we use the tongue to criticize the devotees, it doesn't take much time for the Lord to take the tongue away. If he can give the tongue, he can also take away the tongue. We have mentioned this so many times. If there is one thing that the Supreme Lord doesn't like, it is offenses towards the Vaishnavas. And here the Lord was criticized. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is ready to excuse any offenses unto him. But Mahaprabhu cannot see his devotees being offended. Whoever we are. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Amoga and touched the heart of Amoga and said, "My dear Amoga, how did you become so envious? How did you become so jealous?" And Amoga had tears in his eyes and said, "My dear Lord, please Kara Kamala. For Lakshmi Devi said, Tava Kara Kamala. Tava means, my dear Lord, unto you. Kara Kamala, your hands are Kamala, lotus. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed his Kara Kamala on the chest of Amoga. And Kaviraj Goswami says, the moment Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed his hand on the chest, Amoga, who was so envious and so critical in his attitude, immediately became blessed and purified by the touch of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Amoga, who criticized so much, completely forgot his nature of criticizing because he learned it the hard way. And after that, Amoga became a genuine devotee of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we see here as to how Mahaprabhu has come, and Amoga tries to criticize. And then Sarabhavu Bhattacharya takes a stick and is running behind his own son-in-law. And now he's in the state of cholera. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu touches the heart. The golden hand is touching the chest of Amoga. And Amoga, Kaviraj Goswami says, by the touch of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was not just purified, but he was horripilating in ecstatic love. Which means shaking in ecstatic love by the touch of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continues on his journey and begins his unfulfilled desire, the desire of going to Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always had this desire of going to Vrindavan. From the time, if you remember, when Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas, Mahaprabhu wanted to go to Vrindavan, right? Start of Mandirila. And Nityananda Prabhu takes him to Shantipur and says, my dear Lord, this is Vrindavan. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, from when did we have palm trees and coconut trees in Vrindavan? And Nityananda Prabhu says, my dear Lord, recent update. This has recently come. And my dear Lord, wherever you are, that is Vrindavan. Now Nityananda Prabhu is also correct. Wherever Gauranga Mahaprabhu is, that is Vrindavan. So Gurudev as Nityananda Prabhu is not lying. But he is not saying the full truth either. He says, wherever you are, that is Vrindavan. And finally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees Advaita Acharya on the board and says, Advaita, when did you come to Vrindavan? Advaita Acharya says, what do you mean? This is not Vrindavan, this is Shantipur. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looks at Nitai. Nityananda Prabhu looks at Mahaprabhu. My dear Lord, I wanted to bring you here because Sachimata was feeling separation. So I wanted you to be here closer to Advaita and closer to Sachimata. We don't want you to go to Vrindavan. And from what we remember, Sachimata had also given the same instruction. Being Jagannath Puri, don't go to Vrindavan. Why? Because Jagannath Puri and Navadvip are two doors or two rooms of the same house. So people will be going back and forth. I will get news of what you are doing. Don't go to Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu says okay. And eventually now Mahaprabhu, after 5 years of sannyas, when did Mahaprabhu take sannyas? What was his age? 24. Mahaprabhu was 24. 5 years means 29. So Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Mahaprabhu was 29 years young. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was 29 years. And now he expresses his desire again to go to the land of Vrindavan. And he says this to Ramananda Rai and Sarabhavu Bhattacharya. And all this after the Rath Yatra and all done. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Rath Yatra was there, you have made me wait here, then Dola Yatra, this Yatra, that Yatra. Ab to jane do. Now please allow me to go to Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't need instruction. He doesn't need permission from anyone. वो भगवान है, वो स्वराट है. अनुमति की जरूरत नहीं है उन्हें. But even the Supreme Lord, who is independent, is dependent on the permission of his devotees. Supreme Lord is dependent on the permission of his devotees. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, my desire to go to Vrindavan has increased. Because of your tricks, I couldn't go for the past 2 years. So the Lord is supremely independent, yet he is forever beautifully dependent on the desires of his beloved devotees. So when Sarabhavu Bhattacharya hears this, Sarabhavu Bhattacharya says, my dear Lord, you can go to Vrindavan. But we have one suggestion. So now Mahaprabhu is already thinking, my goodness, every time I ask Vrindavan, these people have something. Sarabhavu Bhattacharya said, my dear Lord, now it is monsoon season, बारिश का समय है. After monsoon you can go. After monsoon, now it is every monsoon season, sannyasis don't travel. After monsoon, you can go. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was thinking in his heart that after monsoon season, again we will make Mahaprabhu wait here. तब देखेंगे, अभी रुका के रखेंगे, तब देखेंगे. But interestingly, after the monsoon was done, during the time of Vijayadashmi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally leaves to go to Sri Vrindavan. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Now, Vijayadashmi, during that time we have a festival called as Odan Shashti. Odan Shashti. So we see in Jagannath Puri during Odan Shashti, Vrindavan Sakha Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that during Odan Shashti they offer new clothes to Jagannath, but those new clothes are such that they are not washed. So they are bought new from the store or they are prepared new. And normally when we buy clothes we wash them. But during Odan Shashti, those clothes are not washed, but new clothes are offered as it is to Jagannath. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who is one associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he got to know about this, he was a little upset. That clothes should be washed. Why clothes to Jagannath are not washed? कपड़ा तो धोकर पहनना चाहिए. तो प्रभु है वो जगन्नाथ है भगवान है. कपड़ा तो धोना चाहिए ना. So he was thinking this way, but he didn't tell anyone. In the night, Jagannath and Baldev came in his dream. And Jagannath and Baldev on both sides nicely gave him Mahaprasad. They slapped the cheeks of Pundarik Vidyanidhi in the dream. And Jagannath said, don't intervene. Whatever the Pandas are doing in Jagannath Puri, they know better. I am very happy. Don't come and impose your rules. I am happy here. When Pundarik Vidyanidhi got up in the morning, both cheeks were like balloons. In the dream, Jagannath has given nice Mahaprasad. But Pundarik Vidyanidhi is a very close associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very, very advanced. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has this desire to go to Vrindavan. And we see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there in Jagannath Puri. The departure on Vijayadashmi, taking Jagannath's permission. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then reaches Cuttack. You remember Cuttack, Sakshi Gopal पास में आदि लीला चित्र चलता में एक जमाने में जब हम होम प्रोग्राम करते थे Lynnwood मंदिर के पहले that time we had discussed Cuttack and Sakshi Gopal. Then Remuna, what is Remuna famous for? Gopinath. And who was the personality in that whole pastime? Madhavendra Puri. Shila Madhavendra Puri ki Jai. Remember? Madhya Lila chapter 4. Madhavendra Puri walks all the way for Chandan and then Gopinath steals a pot of sweet rice and then the Pujari comes. ऐसा लगता है कि एक ज़माने में किए इन सब चीज़ों को भी डिस्कस right. So Mahaprabhu is there in Ramuna and then we have the pastime of when Mahaprabhu comes to Orissa. In the border of Orissa there is some instance that happens and finally the Lord reaches Panikhati. So this is what we will discuss today. So Mahaprabhu now from Jagannath has gone to Sri Vrindavan. So as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was departing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looks at Nityananda Prabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looks at Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu tells Nitai, Prati Varshe Nilachale Tumi na Asibo. My dear Nitai, Prati Varshe Nilachale Tumi na Asibo. Every year, don't keep coming to Nilachala. Gauda Deshe Rahi Mora Ichha Sapala Karigo. Stay in Gauda Desh, which means Navadvip. And Mora Ichha Sapala Karigo. Live in Gauda Desh and fulfill my desire. What is the desire? In the previous class, Mahaprabhu had told Nitai, go to Navadvip and preach in Navadvip. Right? Mahaprabhu gave different instructions. He had told Nitai, be in Navadvip and preach. But Nitai would come again and again to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jagannath Puri. So Mahaprabhu says, प्रति वर्ष नीलाचले तुम्ही ना आसी बार बार बताइए गौड़ देश रही मोरा इच्छा सफल करेगो live in गौड़ देश fulfill my desire of preaching because my dear Nitai other than you no one can preach. Why other than Nitai? Because other than Guru Tattva, other than being empowered by Guru Tattva, our Gaudiya Guru Parampara, no one can actually preach. Any class that we give, whether it is Devayas or Agavatam or whatever. We are speaking why? Because we are speaking from the works that Shukadev Goswami, Kaviraj Goswami and all have written. So we are repeating their words, which means without being empowered by them, no one can actually speak about it. So there is no gain of our own. We are completely dependent on their mercy. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is Nityananda Prabhu, that mighty Nita lived there in Navadvip and preached in Navadvip and made people devotees there. Don't keep coming here again and again. So what is Mahaprabhu telling to Nita? Kindly do not come to Jagannath Puri every year. Stay in Bengal and fulfill my mission there. But for you, no one can do it. अर्थात आपके अलावा ये कोई कर नहीं पाएगा प्रचार का कार्य, आप वहां रहकर प्रचार कीजिए. And Nityananda Prabhu replied with pure devotion, O Lord, you are the life and I am the body. By your inconceivable energy, whatever you make me do, I do without restriction. And as Mahaprabhu was asking, he's speaking to Nityananda Prabhu, one devotee again from Kulinagram. He turns towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and says, my dear Lord, what should be my primary duty? मेरा सबसे पहला कर्तव्य क्या होना चाहिए? What should be my primary duty? And Mahaprabhu gives two instructions. First, serve the devotees. When Mahaprabhu says, serve the servants of the Supreme Lord, which means Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur Das, Das and Das. Serve the servants of the Supreme Lord. And second, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. भगवान का नाम जपिए और भक्तों की सेवा कीजिए. Simple instruction. And that's an instruction not just to him, but it's an instruction to everyone. Serve the Vaishnavas, chant the meaning. Very simple. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Nityananda Prabhu to live in Bengal, and Nityananda Prabhu exemplifies spiritual obedience. Guru Tattva or Sri Guru is always obedient to the Guru Parampara. Sri Guru is never independent, but Sri Guru takes the instructions from his Sri Guru and passes it as it is. So Gurudev is always obedient to the Guru Parampara. Right? If Sri Guru is not obedient to the Guru Parampara and starts speaking anything of his or her mind, then the Guru no longer is bona fide. Guru is bona fide when he repeats as it is or what is Sri Guru said, right? Or what is Param Guru said. It goes back to it. For Gadadhar Pandit, now Gadadhar Pandit is another associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who is Gadadhar Pandit? Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani ki Jai. Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani. Now Gadadhar Pandit had taken a lifelong vow, and that was Kshetra Sannyas, which means I will take sannyas and I will not leave Jagannath. हम इस जगह का त्याग नहीं करेंगे. Come what may, whatever it is, I will not leave this place. In our ISKCON, Ayurveda was like this. Even though he was not sannyasi by external designation, his life was more than a sannyasi. But he had also taken this oath of never leaving Vrindavan. And he practically never left Vrindavan. 1986, he moved to Vrindavan. Until his last day, he was in the land of Vrindavan. The only place Ayurveda left Vrindavan for was Sri Navadvip, Mayapur. From 1986 to 2003, he was constantly in Vrindavan. 2003, when Panchatattva was being installed in Mayapur, so the devotees invited him, why don't you come to Mayapur? And I said, if I go there, what about Radha Shyam Sundar? What about the 24-hour Kirtan? I will not go anywhere. He was so attached to Vrindavan that he didn't even want to go to Navadvip. Normally we are told, and which is true, Vrindavan and Mayapur are not different. Which is true. But here are devotees who are so transcendently mad behind Vrindavan कि हम ब्रज को त्याग कर मायापुर भी नहीं जाएंगे, हम नवद्वीप भी नहीं जाएंगे. I will ब्रज त्यजिके में कहीं नहीं जाऊं, रसिक संतन के दर्शन पाऊं, जग से प्रीति हटाई, राधा नाम परम सुखदाई. ब्रज को त्याग कर हम कहीं नहीं जाएंगे. So Sripad Ayurveda was like that, Kshetra Sannyas. that Gadadhar Pandit, he abandons his Kshetra sannyas, staying in one place, and his service to Gopinath just to follow the Lord to Katak. जब चैतन्य महाप्रभु कटक जा रहे हैं, Lord is going to Katak, Gadadhar Pandit breaks his own promise for the higher principle of being with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is more important is to be with the Lord. Our vow comes later. If our vrata is taking us towards Bhagavan, great. If the vrata is keeping us from a distance from the Supreme Lord, it is time we modify our vrata. The purpose of the vrata is to get Bhagavan, is to become closer to Him. What's the purpose of doing the vrata if you are going to go away from the Lord? Gadadhar Pandit said, forget my Chaitra sannyas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is more important. And he followed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Katak. And then Mahaprabhu eventually, he requests Gadadhar Pandit to go back. And he falls unconscious. And the same happens with Ramananda Raya also. 2 months separation from the Supreme Lord. Actually, Gadadhar Pandit is very interesting. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that Gadadhar Pandit was in the search of Sri Guru. Guru ke tarash mein the, right? So he went to Mukunda and he asked Mukunda that, my dear Mukunda, do you know any Sri Guru I can take Diksha from? Because during those days there is no ISKCON Desire. No YouTube, no SoundCloud. So you don't know where Gurus are there and kaun kaise pata nahi. So he went to Mukunda and said, my dear Mukunda, I want to take Diksha. Do you know someone? Mukunda said, yeah, of course I know someone. I will take you. And he held the hand of Gadadhar and took him to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a king. And he was a very interesting king. Why? Because Pundarik Vidyanidhi was always dressed very opulently. Like the tip-top, nice, fancy dress, nice glittering dress. And he would nice scent all over the body. He would look at the mirror and adjust his hair. There were people around him who would fan him. So he would sit royally with him. So Gadadhar Pandit was brought. Mukunda brought Gadadhar Pandit and said, he is your guru. Imagine you are brought to someone who is sitting very fancy, very luxury. People are fanning him. And he is looking at the mirror and adjusting his hair and nice putting perfume. What will your reaction be? Him? He is my guru. First day is guru. No, I think Mukunda, you made a mistake. Maybe you have come to the wrong address. Mukunda said, no, the right address of the right person. Gadadhar Pandit had doubts about the authenticity and the spiritual supremacy of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And before Gadadhar Pandit could speak anything, Mukunda realized if he speaks, he will do a Vaishnava Aparadha. So Mukunda, to show to Gadadhar Pandit that who actually Pundarik Vidyanidhi is, he chanted one verse. This verse is Canto 3, the pastime of Putana. Aho bakiyam stanakada kutam jingam sayapaye dravya sadhi leve gatin khatri muchitam tatonyam kamba dayalum sharanam brajena. When Putana had come to Vrindavan, Shukadeva Goswami chants this verse and says, Aho bakiyam stanakada kutam. This Baki Ayam, the sister of Baki. Bakasur, Agasur and Putana are brothers and sisters. 2 brothers, 1 sister. This is why in Hindi you say, Teen Chigda Kaam Bigda. 2 brothers and 1 sister. So Aho Baki Ayam, this lady who is there, she is the sister of Bakasur. Stanakala, she has come with poison in her chest. Jingam Sayam Ayam Adapya Sadhvi. She is not Sadhvi, she is Asadhvi. Sadhu nahi hai. She is Asadhvi. Leve Gathir Dhatu Muchitam Tatonyam. In spite of trying to poison Krishna, what does Krishna do? Leve Gatim. He gives her Gati, the highest Gati. What Gati? Dhatri. Dhatri means a nurse. भगवान उन्हें माता का सौभाग्य देते थे. लेवे गति दात्री उचितम. And Krishna says this is uchit. हमने जो किया उचित है. I did right. Someone can argue, why did Krishna give the position of a mother to someone who came to poison? Krishna says, I know what I am doing. और ये उचित है. Come Shukadev Goswami says, Kamba Dayalu Sharanam Brajema. Who can be more merciful than that Krishna who came to give poison to Bhagavan, and the Supreme Lord gave the position of mother to that lady. Kamba Dayalu. Bhagavan से दयालु और कौन हो सकता है? It's a rhetorical question. और कोई नहीं हो सकता. That's the meaning. There can be no one more merciful than Bhagavan. When this verse was chanted, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, when he heard this, Pundarik Vidyanidhi became so ecstatic that his whole skin became pale. His teeth became chattering. His tears started flowing from his eyes. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi became unconscious. And from the top pedestal where he was sitting, he fell down the steps. Right? It was not a stunt. He became so unconscious by hearing one was एक श्लोक सुन के इतने भाव विभोर हो गए, वो भूल गए सब कुछ. He forgot everything. He was the king. He rolled down to the ground with tears in his eyes, was loudly chanting, Kamba Dayalu Sharanam Brajema, Kamba Dayalu Sharanam Brajema. कि भगवान से दयालु और कौन हो सकता है? अर्थात कोई नहीं. When Gadadhar Pandit saw him cry so much, he understood. We have come to the right person. All the doubts he had was dispelled by one verse of Srimad Bhagavatam chanted by Mukunda. Pundarik Gadadhar Pandit goes to Pundarik Vidyanidhi and says, my dear Pundarik Vidyanidhi, will you initiate me? And Pundarik Vidyanidhi says yes. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Gaur Leela, initiates Gadadhar Pandit. Now what is fascinating, dear devotees? Who is Gadadhar Pandit? Do you know who Pundarik Vidyanidhi is?
Rishabhanu Maharaj.
Rishabhanu Maharaj. So, Radharani was brought to her own father, and through one verse of Bhagavatam, both got introduced, and the father Pundarik Vidyanidhi blessed and initiated, quote unquote, his own daughter from the previous age as Gadadhar Pandit. And it's very fascinating that even in Krishna Leela, Srimati Radharani has a very strong connection with Putana. We have heard Srimati Radharani on a golden lotus. Rishabhanu Maharaj finds a golden lotus one morning and he picks up Srimati Radharani and takes her home and becomes the father. How does Srimati Radharani fall on a golden lotus? All glories to Putana Mataji. Putana Mataji had the power to fly. So Putana, at one point by the instruction of Kamsa, was holding Srimati Radharani and was holding Chandravali and was flying up in the air. And by the power of the mantras, she lost her ability to hold on to both the children. And she dropped one child, and that child fell on lotus on the bank of Yamuna. That's where Rishabhanu Maharaj next day morning goes and finds Srimati Radharani. It was Putana Mataji who dropped Srimati Radharani. And second child was Chandravali, who was given to Rishabhanu Maharaj's brother called as Chandravali. And that Chandravali outside of Vrindavan becomes Rukmini of Dwarka, whom Krishna is. So in Krishna Leela, we see Radharani and Putana have a strong connection. And in Gaura Leela, Radharani met her father by the verse that was describing Putana. So both have a connection. So as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going, he gives some instructions. And we have Maharaj Pratap. Maharaj Pratap, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrives at Katak, Lord Chaitanya rested at a garden outside the Sakshi Gopal temple. King Pratap, overwhelmed in profound love, fell down repeatedly, offering prayers with tears filled eyes. And finally we see that Lord bestowed mercy upon the king through his body, mind and words. From that sacred day forward, the king became celebrated as Pratapa Rudra Satrata. What is the name? Pratapa Rudra Satrata Mahaprabhu. It is Mahaprabhu's name. Pratapa Rudra Satrata, that personality who delivered Mahaprabhu. Trata means Tana, to liberate. Samtrata, complete liberation. That personality who fully liberated and uplifted Pratapa. So Mahaprabhu got a name. And finally, Maharaj Pratap, who tried so much to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, eventually we see the Lord showers mercy. But the mercy first came to his son, and then it went to the father. And Maharaj Pratap gives an instruction to all his servants that in every village Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes from now, construct a nice residence. भगवान के लिए कुटिया बनाइए. जहाँ भी भगवान जाएंगे उनके लिए रहने का तो जगह चाहिए ना. So he is the king. He tells his servant, prepare nice places to stay for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And personally take the Lord to these new houses and serve him day and night. So Maharaj Pratap had appointed two servants. One was Harichandan and second was Mardaraj. So check. Maharaj Pratap gives an instruction. Build houses every place, do nice service, and ordered officers Harichandan and Mardaraj to keep a new boat ready on the banks of every river. जहाँ भी महाप्रभु को जाना है, आप देख लीजिए, there should be a nice boat ready with a boatman. We should not be waiting. So much love Maharaj Pratap will have for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Mahaprabhu doesn't ask for it, he says best to it. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness, dear devotees. Oftentimes we see when we ask, the Lord may or may not hear. But just by being a devotee of the Supreme Lord, even those things that are not written in our destiny, by being a devotee, the Supreme Lord can bless and change the child. He can change the destiny. भगवान का भक्त होना सौभाग्य की बात है. It is a great good fortune. No one becomes a devotee of the Lord so easily. It comes after many lifetimes. And if the Lord wants, He can bless and change the life, change the chart so much so that the devotee comes one step closer to the Supreme Lord. And finally, Maharaj Pratap says, wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes, build a memorial. वहाँ मेमोरियल बनाइए ताकि आगे चलकर जब लोग आएंगे उन्हें पता चलेगा कि अरे चैतन्य महाप्रभु यहाँ आए. Build a nice memorial. In our northern eco village, we have a place called as the Vaishnava Memorial. And the Vaishnava Memorial is essentially a place where all the departed Vaishnavas were there. In ISKCON and in Gaudiya. All of their photos will be honored. Srila Radhanath Maharaj's mood is ISKCON, Gaudiya, but all this is external. The broader picture is everyone is a servant of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And it is our duty to serve and please and respect him. So if you go to Govardhan Equivalent in the Vaishnava Memorial, you will see so many sannyasis of ISKCON, not just sannyasis, Grahasthas, and also so many sannyasis and so many Grahasthas, even of the Gaudiya Mata, who have contributed big time to Mahaprabhu's mission. So all of them are worshipped every day, flowers is offered every day, and it's very fascinating that for those who have seen that location, you have the Vaishnava Memorial, and exactly opposite the Vaishnava Memorial, you have Giriraj Govardhan, you have Shaligrama Govardhanji, and someone had asked Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj that why was this located here? Why did he keep the Vaishnava Memorial here opposite the Giriraj? And Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj he said, Raghunath Das Goswami prays that my dear Giriraj, Nija Nikata Nivasam Dehi Govardhanatva, that may I always live at your foothill. The prayer of a Vaishnava is may I forever live at the foothill of Govardhan. Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj said, this is our small service to all the departed Vaishnavas, that after they have departed, we have kept them on the lotus feet of Giriraj so that they can always serve and please and take the darshan of Giriraj every single day. So it's exactly diametrically opposite of the Govardhan. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is the last 5 minutes and then we stop. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was there at the border of Orissa, the ruler there was a Muslim. And the king who was there, he was a bit drunkard. So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached there, his servants told him that, my dear Lord, let's not proceed ahead. It's a very dangerous terrain because the king who was there is not very favorable. And somehow the king's men, they got to know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were inspired by Mahaprabhu because here was someone who was 7 foot tall, Arjun Bahu, golden in complexion, jumping and dancing and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The servants of this Muslim king, they were very inspired to see this. And they came and told the king, my dear king, I think we have seen a very self-realized personality. My dear king, I think, please pardon me, but I think we have seen the Supreme Lord himself. I think I have seen Allah. I think the Supreme Lord is there outside dancing. I think you should also come and see. And the king said, Acha, Allah is dancing outside, okay, let's just go. And they went outside, and looking at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the king was so amazed. That 7-foot personality, golden complexion, with big eyes, tears are flowing, with his hands raised above, is inducing everyone to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The king was so amazed because he had never seen anything like this. He was so amazed that he fell at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, my dear Lord, I wish I was born in the family of devotees so that I can also travel and serve you like the way others are doing it. But alas, I am a king and I have some duties. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed him. And Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him one instruction. What is that instruction? Chant Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Mahaprabhu said chant Hare Krishna, everything will be okay. Srila Prabhupada was once asked that, Srila Prabhupada, after you depart from this world, how will you and I be in touch? The disciples asked. Srila Prabhupada, after you depart, how will you be in touch? Srila Prabhupada said, you chant Hare Krishna, I will chant Hare Krishna, and we will be forever happily. Never after. Because Srila Prabhupada said, in the spiritual world also there is chanting of Hare Krishna. In this world you chant Hare Krishna. Then we will forever happily we will be there. So this is Mahaprabhu's instruction to anyone. Wherever we are, whatever the circumstances, the tongue should be chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So this is what the messenger, the spy, the governor, all of them became the servants of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. His heart was completely transformed. He fell at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu asked him to chant Krishna, Hari, or the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we see if Kaviraj Goswami writes, if one is purified by chanting Krishna's holy names, one must be eager to render service to the Lord. That this is the test. One is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but one should also do seva. One should also do service. Chanting results in purification, and eventually through that purification, one should be purified enough to serve the Supreme Lord and serve the Vaishnavas. So we see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he empowers Nityananda Prabhu, he blesses Maharaj Pratapradura, and he delivers the governor. So in this way we see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Eventually, Mahaprabhu reaches Bengal, he reaches Panihati by the Ganges, and he visits the homes of Raghav Pandit, Srivas Thakur, Shivananda Sen, etc. And finally, as these crowds are there, they are very eager to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But amidst those crowds, there is one personality who was yearning to see Mahaprabhu for a very long time. Why? Because he had committed a mistake, and Mahaprabhu was not very eager to bestow mercy upon him. That personality was from the Adi Leela, Gopal Chapal. Remember the pastor of Gopal Chapal? How he kept liquor bottle outside the house of Srivas and tried to defame Srivas. Up until now, Mahaprabhu didn't show mercy, and he was being tormented by the pain of leprosy. Here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees him, and when Gopal Chapal surrenders to Mahaprabhu and begs forgiveness, Mahaprabhu at this point in Madhya, that happened in Adi Leela. After so many years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now blesses Gopal Chapal. And Gopal Chapal gets blessed, goes to Srivas Thakur, and that Gopal Chapal eventually becomes a personality by the name Devaki Nandan Thakur. And he writes a very beautiful song where he glorifies different Vaishnavas of Bengal, Vrindavan, and Jagannath. So in this way we see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is continuing on his journey of inspiring everyone and taking them closer to the lotus feet of Shyama Sundar Shri Krishna. Having said this, I very humbly want to stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki
Jai.
Shri Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna. Before we go to questions, I just have a small announcement. Two announcements in fact. One is we have opened our retreat registrations, Sharanagati, which I am most excited for. So we just opened it today by the Mercy of Hari Guru Vaishnavas, which will be open till the 30th of September. So I hope those who can make it and those who are young, from the age standpoint, that is 14 to 28 or 14 to 30, let's say, are able to make it. And I promise, I guarantee that it's going to be an experience that probably you will never forget it. You will have it in your heart, in your mind, in your intellect for a lifetime, and it's going to change your perception of how you see Krishna consciousness. So that is December 20th to December 27th. That is more than 2 days. Registration is open. That's the good news. A second announcement that I want to make, I don't know whether it is good or bad, how I will perceive it, is due to the divine arrangement of the Supreme Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there are some changes in my life in the case of immigration. In America, there is always the headache of immigration. So there is an immigration issue because of which my wife and I are we have to leave the country by July 26th. So the next few classes will probably be our last Charitamrita classes. Legally, there is no way for me to stay in the country. So that is Krishna's desire, Krishna's plan. So July 26th, we are going back to India for good. Please pray for us wherever we are. We all can be connected by hearing and chanting about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The main purpose is wherever we are, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, whether we are there in the house or we are in the forest, doesn't matter. What is more important is to be connected to the Guru Parampara and to chant Krishna's name. Because at the end of the day, we will anyway be separated, either today or tomorrow. So, of course, I am a bit sad that I will not be able to meet you on the Saturdays. But that is Krishna's plan, that is Krishna's desire. Whatever Krishna plans and desires, that is better than all of our plan. So I want to wholeheartedly seek forgiveness that we will not be able to complete the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We will not even be able to complete the Madhya. We have today's what, third, so let's say another 2 or 3 classes from now, another 2, let's say. And then I would highly encourage if we ourselves can pick up Chaitanya Charitamrita and continue from the point where we have left off so that we finish Chaitanya Charitamrita. Or the even better scenario would be if any other devotee from the congregation can step in and complete from the Madhya to the Anthya, that would be even better. Service to our Sri Guru and service to Sampradaya is more important than anything else. So I thank you wholeheartedly for being with me in this discussion for the past 2 years. Unfortunately, our journey ends in a few days, in a few weeks. But hopefully, whenever you all come to India, come to Vrindavan, wherever we can meet, and continue chanting and dancing in Mahaprabhu's home. Thank you very much.
I hope you come back.
Yeah, I don't know what to say at this point. It's too early. Whatever Krishna has in plan.
Will you do some kirtan, Prabhu?
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Arjun? So, previous class you were talking about like how Mahaprabhu talks about 3 levels of devotee, like what he considers devotee, but he changes it every year. So does that mean like the third year when he said that anyone who by just looking at it you want to chant is a Vaishnava. So does that mean, is that the definition or is it the first one or which one is the correct definition?
All 3 descriptions based on where we are consciousness. Like for example, someone who is you say x plus 1, x plus b, x whatever x plus h, that is also you're using alphabets and numbers. So based on where the person is on the journey of Krishna consciousness, the definition changes. The highest definition is the most or the highest or first class Vaishnavas. Such Vaishnavas are there. But also equally there are Vaishnavas who are constantly chanting. Most of the devotees are on the level of wanting to finish chanting for the day. Let's say that we find devotees who are eager to pick up the beats and chant. Right? So naturally, if you have two cases where a person is waiting to finish 16, another person who waits to chant, the person who waits to chant is definitely superior to this 100% without any no business has. But even superior to that is someone by looking at you. But the point is, only if the person constantly chants will that person elevate to the extent where looking at it you feel like it. Right? So it goes hand in hand. Ayatma was always chanting, and because he was always chanting, people got so much into their head that when they looked at him, their time was moving. Anytime we talk about today, Nakshatra Naam Sankirtan or Naam Japa or Vrindavan. So the third stage is directly connected to the second stage. The person is constantly chanting. All three are based on the advancement of the sadhana. Anything else?
Oh, sorry, one last question. So, like when you were saying that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like happy that Moga was like being like, what was it? Yeah. So I get he's happy because like he offended Mahaprabhu, but like shouldn't devotees be like merciful and like?
Yes, devotees should be merciful, but devotees should also know that when when you are criticizing, you should tolerate it and be merciful. But when other Vaishnavas criticize, that's not very good. Tolerance, Mahaprabhu says that also has a line. When you are criticized, you take it. But when some other devotees criticize, that time you say that Mahaprabhu doesn't take it. Right? If, let's say, Sri Guru, someone criticizes Sri Guru, and then you say that's not a disciple. Disciple should be ready to pounce upon someone else to prove the supremacy of his principles. And if you can't do that, just leave that place. Right? But should not be a place where devotees are criticizing other devotees and we simply hearing. Just like someone who eats meat, someone who distributes meat, someone who transports meat, someone who cuts meat, all of them get same karmic reaction. It's 1/6. Similarly, anyone who criticizes Vaishnavas, anyone who hears about it, anyone who does the Chinese whisper, all of them are implicated in Vaishnava. So if someone cannot protect the dignity of the other Vaishnava by speaking it, let's just so when you are criticized, we accept it. But when other devotees are criticized, that's not the time we keep quiet. Because then Mahaprabhu will not like you being a devotee because you are a devotee and you are accepting other devotees being criticized. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, if he is criticized, it is okay. But here, in front of him, not a devotee, Bhagavan was criticized. That's why he was taken to be.
So Mukunda bought Gadadhar Pandit, right, to make Pundarika, right? But he has a lot of devotion in his heart, right? But he was king, right? But he was looking at the mirror and all those. So he was materially attached to that, right? That scenario looks like. Why? So if he has a pure heart, like devotion in the heart, right? They should not exhibit these characters, right? Naturally.
So we see Shastra explains Vaishnava Kriya Mudra Vijnana Mujaya that from the material perspective, sometimes the actions of the Vaishnavas is very difficult to understand, like this one, that is one. But the point is, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati has taught a principle called as Yukta Vairagya. What is Yukta Vairagya? What is Vairagya? Renunciation. Where you will leave everything. In this world, renunciation means छोड़ो घर बार चलो हरिद्वार. Leave everything and just be renunciate. The Gaudiya principle that Saraswati Thakur is Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means we don't renounce things. For example, a laptop, right? Yukta Vairagya principle is why should I renounce if with this laptop I can preach the message of Krishna, right? I am not attached to it, but I am attached to the principle that with this, if I can spread the movement more, I will use it. I am not interested in watching FIFA World Cup with this TV. But if with this TV I can spread the mission of Gauranga Mahaprabhu more, I will use it. I am not behind a Tesla car. But if with a Tesla car I can go to temple every day and give pick-up ride to devotees, that is Yukta Vairagya. I am not attached to the instrument, I am using that for the service of Bhagavan. Some slight attachment may be there in the heart. But if you divert or you dovetail that to the service of the Vaishnavas, very soon we will see that that little attachment that is there in the heart will also be taken away. So the point here is, externally Pundarik Vidyanidhi being a king would wear royal popular clothes, etc. But Pundarik Vidyanidhi was not attached to it. The point is about attachment. For example, it is not wrong to be a multi-millionaire. Galat nahi. Because if it was wrong, why will Krishna give a palace to Sudama? Why will Krishna have a palace of his own? The point is not that sometimes we think that, oh, by becoming devotee, Krishna sabko chheen lenge, raste pe leke aayenge. Krishna is behind your attachment. If you are attached to money, Krishna will take it away. If you are not attached to money, like Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Krishna will give you more money. Because that money is not taking you away from Bhagavan. Krishna's principle is whatever takes you away from him, he will take that away from you. But if you are not attached to it, someone can be multi-billionaire, for example. But if you are not attached to it, Krishna will keep giving you more. Why? Because Krishna is not behind your money. He is Lakshmi Kant. Apana bank balance dekar Bhagavan thodi, he is not going to get affected. Right? Krishna is not behind our car. Why? Because he has bigger amenities, bigger vehicles. He has palaces. Right? Krishna is behind our attachment. Wherever there is attachment, he will take it away. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was not attached to any of these things. Being the king, now if a king dresses like Sudama, will the subjects respect him? King has to dress like king. Tomorrow if Narendra Modi dresses like Tantan Gopal, will people respect the Prime Minister? He has to be dressed because his position demands it. Right? But because the person demands it doesn't necessarily mean the person is attached to it. Person can be detached, but still can be wearing it. Right? So our Gaudiya principle is Vairagya, yes, but more important it is Yukta Vairagya. Right? For example, we may not be behind a watch. Right? If you see the outside of people will say, oh, why to wear a watch? Hand should be empty. Our principle is if this watch can remind me of when to start the class, when to end the class, where to meet the devotees, etc. If it can help me stay updated on Krishna consciousness of the time when I have to do bhakti, then this watch is also being used in Krishna service. Get my point? So we are not getting Vairagya, we are getting Yukta Vairagya. That is the principle Saraswati Thakur taught. Saraswati Thakur in the 1930s, when he came to Radhakur one time, he came in a Rolls Royce. 1930. We are living in 2026, 100 years ago. Even now, if someone comes in Rolls Royce, we will be, oh, Rolls Royce, badhiya. Saraswati Thakur was Jagat Guru. He, 1930, directed to Radhakur, not to Lynnwood. He came to Radhakur in Rolls Royce.
How could you, I mean, there's probably no roads in Radhakund at that time.
The roads, it was such a road. Roads were Mahaprabhu was a big roads were Saraswati Thakur came to Rolls Royce. So when they asked Saraswati Thakur said, what's the problem? I'm not attached to it. If this Rolls Royce is helping me reach somewhere and helping me preach, I will use it. Prabhupada, when he landed in Melbourne Temple, Melbourne Airport, there was a BMW standing for outside 1974. So Prabhupada said, and a reporter asked exactly the same question, Swamiji, you are Swami, you are getting a BMW. Prabhupada said, why shouldn't I? Well, if my disciples are ready to offer, why shouldn't I? I am using it in Krishna's service. I am using it to travel from one place to another to preach. So the point is not that we are against things. We can use things provided and this is given in NOI and NOD. This is Yukta Vairagya. Using things in the service of Bhagavan, in the service of Krishna. We are not behind technology. We are not against technology. We are not against science. If notebook LM helps me make better slides, I will go. Right? If I can make better slides and do device classes, I will do. We are not against science and technology. Our principle is, जो है भगवान की सेवा में लगाएंगे. Similarly to Derek Vidyarthi, he would wear fancy clothes because that was his position, but he was not attached. And why he was not attached? Because he was attached to that one rose of Srimad Bhagavatam, which Vedanta helps.
Yeah. It is actually a picture of Saraswati Thakur, where he's like, he's all wearing the, he's like become sannyasi now, and he has this watch. And that always gave me, very like piqued my interest, because none of the other acharyas, you see the pictures, they are very simple. But Saraswati Thakur had this watch, and this is 1920 or probably 1910.
That's a big thing, 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's a big thing. So you remember he was using it for Krishna consciousness.
Srila Prabhupada had a Rolex watch, someone had gifted. And I don't know whether it was that watch or some other watch. Eventually, when he was departing this world, he gave that watch to Srila Gopalakrishna. And Gopalakrishna had all the slides into that watch because that is the only gift Prabhupada gave. And when Gopalakrishna was leaving this world, in his will, he gave it to one of his disciples. That now you take it. So that devotee now has the watch that Gopalakrishna wrote, that Srila Prabhupada. So yes, same, but Prabhupada actually was exactly following Saraswati. No wishy-washy, no mixing, etc. Whatever can be used in Krishna service, he would take. And Saraswati was there. Anything else?
I have one question actually. Please
Yes.
remind me why was Lord Nityananda preventing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to Vrindavan? What was the reason, principal reason?
Because Sachimata wanted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be closer to him. And Vrindavan is very far from Calcutta, very far from Navadvip. Jagannath Puri and Navadvip are very close. So Sachimata thought that if my son lives in Jagannath Puri, koi to aate jate rahe. So I will keep getting to know what my son is doing. Mother's heart. But if my son goes to Vrindavan, I don't know what is the frequency I will meet of people who will see my son, then also come back here. So my dear son, I have a request. You take sannyas, but Baju never, so I can know. So Nityananda says okay, and tricks the Lord and takes it to Shantri. Anything else? Yes.
Why did Mahaprabhu meet the Muslim king but not King Prataparita initially?
Why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meet the Muslim king, but he did not meet Maharaj Pratapudra? Very good question. Maharaj Pratapudra, so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, time and again in that past time we see Mahaprabhu says the only problem that he had was with the title called Raja, king. And here also the Muslim person was also king, but Mahaprabhu gave mercy. But the deeper aspect was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not just behind the title. That was not something that was preventing Maharaj Pratapudra to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to show the world that how desperate a devotee can be to get his mercy. Everybody in and around him got mercy. Everybody, including his own son who was वो बच्चा है, बाप को नहीं बोला, बच्चे को नहीं करा. But Maharaj Pratapudra doesn't have any vengeance against Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He still works and begs and begs. He gives up his opulent clothing and goes and massages the feet and sings Jayati Devikam Janmana Bhaja. So Mahaprabhu teaches the world that my devotees are so glorious, they can go to any extreme to please my heart. Maharaj Pratapudra did that. He worked and worked and worked for mercy. Mercy of the Lord doesn't come very naturally. The devotee has to strive. Externally, we see sometimes we can see that this devotee is a recipient of the mercy of the Lord. It is only because either the person has done a lot of bhajan in this lifetime or a lot of bhajan in the previous lifetime. Without endeavor, the Lord will not show mercy. Here, when the Lord met the Muslim king, the Lord just gave an instruction that you chant Hare Krishna. But for Maharaj Pratap, he embraced Maharaj Pratap. For Maharaj Pratap, massaged the feet. He chanted Jai Jai. Maharaj Pratap, along with Kashi Krishna, they organized so many places in Lynnwood. Here also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to Qatar. Maharaj Pratap was fully plugged in to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Muslim king did not get so much. He just got one interaction. Maharaj Pratap worked and slouched so much that he, throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita, from Madhya to Antarya, he was constantly in touch with Mahaprabhu. So in Hindi they say, sometimes they rise to sides. Sometimes good things can take little time. But Mahaprabhu's showering of mercy for the Muslim king and Maharaj Pratap was different. It was not a Raja title, but primarily to show the world that my devotee world can do any extreme to get my mercy. Even at the stake of giving up the Raja title. But good question, I don't thought of that.
There's also, I mean, if I may just add a perspective there, it's also because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not really, he does not have anything against the Muslims meeting us. He is willing to give kripa to anybody. So that's also a perspective, right?
Yeah.
He's not meeting him as a king or a devotee or anything, but then he's like, he's just coming to meet him, see him, okay.
Mahaprabhu, he said that now Mahaprabhu, his mercy extends to everyone, whatever the external. Haji.
How do we understand the Radharani mercy, help of Radharani and Sakhis? Means in the Damodar Ashtam, for please Krishna, we do some more effort. In Purushottam month, we do some more effort. So is there any months for Radharani? How she praised?
Kartik is the month of Radharani. Purushottam is the month of Krishna. Kartik is the month of Sri Radha.
Especially for Radharani?
Yeah, Kartik is the month of Radharani. It is Damodar pastime took place in that month. But Kartik, Radharani is a name called as Kartika. Mother is Kirtita. Kirtita's daughter is Kartika. Kartika's month is Kartik. So the month of Kartik is the month of Sri Radha. The month of Purushottam is the month of Krishna. Krishna comes once in 2.5 years. Radharani comes every year. That proves Radharani is more kind of more Muslim. But yeah, in plain language, the month of Sri Radha is Kartik. This is why devotees around the world go to Dham and Vrindavan and Mayapur during Kartik. Why? Because that is the time you can avail the mercy of Radharani the maximum and even more if you are in the Dham.
I know about the Durga Ma. I connect with Durga Ma. I can feel the Durga Ma, but is it I can't connect with the Radha Ma. Radharani.
So Radharani, so from a Siddhantic perspective, Radharani is not mother. We never say Radha Ma.
Yeah, so how we connect with Radharani?
How we connect with Radharani? Like the way you are doing by living in Vrindavan now. By associating with Brajavasis who are mad with Radharani. The most fundamental point is to develop love and attachment to Radharani and Krishna. Before even having attachment to Radharani, the prerequisite is to have attachment to Sri Vrindavan. यदि ब्रज के प्रति आकर्षण नहीं है, तो राधारानी के प्रति आकर्षण होना प्राय असंभव है. There can never be a person who can claim that I have a lot of affinity and attraction for Radha and Krishna, but Vrindavan ठीक है, नहीं होगा, नहीं होगा. Srinath Chaitanya says, Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesh Tarayastar Dhama Vrindavan. For the Gaudiya Sampradaya, not just Gaudiya Sampradaya, आप वृंदावन में रहते, for any Sampradaya, right? Gaudiyas, Nimbarakis, Hitharivansh, all of them. What is the fundamental point? The attraction is towards Radharani, but it is also Vrindavan Dham. Right? Srila Prabhupada, 1977, when he was departing this world, Prabhupada went to London. From London, he was scheduled to go to Gitanagari. Right? Prabhupada's health deteriorated that he told the Ramakrishna Maharaj, I can't go to Gitanagari, take me back to Vrindavan. I want to leave this world in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada for the next 6 months was at Sri Vrindavan Dham, and on his personal desire he left Vrindavan. So the point is, if you are a follower of Radha Krishna, the prerequisite is you have to have attachment to Vrindavan. period. No discussion. And attachment to Vrindavan comes by associating with those devotees who have attachment to Vrindavan. When we associate with devotees who genuinely have very strong attraction to Vrindavan, not superficial, but who are genuinely attracted to Vrindavan, by their association, that attachment to Braj, that desire to go to Braj will rise in the heart. And Rupa Goswami is of the Panchyata Bhakti, Brajvas, Mathuravas is one of the Panchyata Bhakti. Why? There are 64 limbs. He could have said anything. कुछ भी बोल सकते थे 64 अंग में. 64 अंग से जब 5 अंग में लेके आते हैं, एक अंग उसमें है ब्रजवास, मथुरावास. Because just living, Rupa Goswami, Mathura Mahatmya says, if someone lives a fortnight in Mathura, that person will never enter a mother's womb. वो माँ के घर में कभी नहीं जाएगा. रूप गोस्वामी लिखते हैं. If someone lives a fortnight in Braj, the land of Vrindavan is very very powerful. क्यों? क्योंकि भगवान का घर है, राधा रानी का घर है. She is Vrindavaneshwari. It is not even Krishna's home. We say Vrindavan. She is Vrindavaneshwari. It is her land. It is her land. So before even having attraction for Radha Rani, there should be attraction for Vrindavan. For getting attraction to Vrindavan, two things: associate with those devotees who have attraction to Vrindavan. Second, read books that will inspire you, take you closer to the land of Vrindavan. There has to be personal endeavor. When we read and hear classes that remind us of Vrindavan, we will see there will be a very strong urge to go to Vrindavan. And once we go to Vrindavan, Krishna and Radha will bless us when we start meeting devotees who have attraction for Radha and Krishna. I can say this with from whatever I have heard from all my superiors. Krishna consciousness, and Krishna Charitamrita says this in Madhurya. Bhakti or Krishna consciousness is always given. देने की वस्तु है. It can never be acquired on our own. अपने बलबूते में नहीं प्राप्त कर सकते. हम 64 माला जपे, हम पूरा दिन श्लोक कंठस्थ करें, पुस्तक पढ़े, whatever we do, bhakti is always given. It has to be given from someone who has bhakti. Bhakti, it is a thing that is given from a superior, from someone who has it in his heart. He blesses and then bhakti comes in our heart, not by one's personal endeavor. Not by one's personal endeavor. So my 2 cents here is hear classes that take you closer to Sri Vrindavan and read books that take you closer to Vrindavan. One suggestion that I received from my Siksha Guru is whenever you get time, apart from the books of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Charitamrita, etc., try to see if you can read a book called Sri Vrindavan Mahimamrita. Vrindavan Mahimamrita is by Srila Prabhu Saraswati. Vrindavan Mahimamrita speaks whole and soul about the glories of Braj. And when someone reads Vrindavan Mahimamrita, he gets intoxicated about Braj. Prabhu Saraswati says, and story it is an explosion of the heart of Prabhu Saraswati. Prabhu Saraswati called him Tunga Vidya Sakhi, spiritual guru. That Tunga Vidya comes down as Prabhu Saraswati, the uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Gopal Bhatta Goswami uncle. And he writes Vrindavan Mahimamrita. And this Vrindavan Mahimamrita is, the verses don't have a connection. श्लोक में कोई connection, आप कोई भी श्लोक उठाइए. It is just the author is heavily pressing upon the point that leave everything, run to Vrindavan. सब छोड़ो वृंदावन जाओ, सब छोड़ो वृंदावन जाओ. इस प्रकार आपकी leave everything, go to Vrindavan. And even Prabhu Saraswati says, go to, when will that day come in my life when I go to Vrindavan in a one-way ticket? That I don't want to come back. So it's an explosion of the heart of the author. When you get time, please read books, read classes about Vrindavan. Vrindavan will take us closer to Srimati Radharani, not our endeavor. Not our endeavor. Hare Krishna. We're looking.
That's good.
Unless there is another influence.
Hare Let's all chant in one voice.